Today, we're talking with the hosts and wellness experts of Vow Village. Let's go.
You can live a life in flow where your deepest heart's desires become reality.
You are here to contribute through your essence, fall deeper in love with your life and the journey that you are on.
Take what works, ditch the rest, and always stay set for love.
Thank you for being a part of this community. We're all designed to live in flow. So let's go.
Reverend Rhyan Campbell has been the director of the Agape Youth and Family Ministry at Agape International Spiritual Center since November of 2004. Agape has one of the largest spiritual youth communities in the country. Reverend Rhyan established the Agape Youth and Family Artist in Residency Program, a 6 to 8 week workshop in which professional artists from the Los Angeles area offer instruction in a variety of creative modalities, accumulating in a performance or exhibition. We also have with us today Dr. Rhyan Foster. She is a licensed clinical psychologist with specialization in behavioral psychology and forensic psychology. She received her doctorate in clinical psychology forensics from Alliant International University in 2012. While there, she also earned her master's in clinical psychology. Dr. Foster has 10 plus years in the field with expertise in behavior modification. She's worked with clinics ranging from children to late adulthood and hopes that Fit Services, Inc. will be the bridge that improves the relationship between mental health and therapeutic outreach. And finally, my dear good friend, Tann Moore, is a licensed marriage and family therapist, a speaker, a classical trained actor, playwright, screenwriter, and author with nearly a decade's experience working with identification of negative patterns hindering success. As the founder of Tann Moore Healing Arts, she believes self-realization is both sacred and powerful and relies on the power of personal strengths through the use of creative art therapies, holistic approaches, and integrative interventions. We have an amazing group of individuals here today to talk about a brand new show called Val Village. It is live right now on YouTube. You can go check it out. So I want to welcome you all to Set to Love. Tann, welcome back. And
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure. So Tann, you've been on our show before. You've talked about Vow Village, but just to catch people up, I'll make sure that I have a link in the description from that show if anyone wants to watch that and pop on back. But before we dive in and talk about Vow Village and relationships and how to really create those strong marriages, Tann, why don't you tell us a little bit about Vow Village?
Vow Village. Vow Village was born for couples, by couples, and I've seen a lot of shows kind of explore this topic, with couples, but I wanted to bring in experts, these amazing people that are here now. I wanted to bring them in to talk to the couples, and I wanted to have couples who were also well-versed in successful relationships. So we kind of put it all in one mixing pot, and we came together and we really discussed things that are working. We talked about ways to continue to keep it working. And we also helped them identify maybe some challenges along the way that they could kind of, address head on and maybe prevent any further issue with that. So it was a lot of fun. It was something that we all did together, and it was great. It was a beautiful time.
I love that. I love your creative genius, Tann. You have so many beautiful ideas. And this one, I went through and watched all the shows, and I actually went back and watched some of them again because I thought, there's such good nuggets of information for truly anyone in a relationship. Yeah. So Dr. Rhyan, let me ask you, why do a show like this?
Well, I think it's important, especially during a time like this where we had the opportunity to be at home together. This is a time where relationships were made and relationships were broken and babies were created. So a lot going on over the past 12 plus months. And, you know, even though we are starting to get back into the fold of what we consider normal life now, there's still some of that at home togetherness. And so having a show that uplifts, creates a positive foundation and framework for relationships, marriages, engagements is very important to have a positive message that promotes healthy love and relationships. So
yeah, I love that. I love in the introduction, it was like, no drama here.
Yeah.
right.
If you're looking for Jerry Springer, you've come to the wrong place.
Right.
No shade.
No shade. I love it. So Reverend Campbell, can you tell me what's the feedback been? The show's been out now for, gosh, maybe only like a month or something, right? It hasn't been too long. What's the feedback been from the community that has been able to partake in it, but also the couples that you were able to work with?
Well, I think it's created a buzz. And when I say it's created a buzz, it's created real life that people can talk about because there's no drama. And then also people get a chance to see through couples. They get the chance to see themselves. Real life couples where there's, you know, people begin to say, oh man, there's got to be something, but it turns out to be good. It turns out to be wonderful because they're being guided by experts, and they get this opportunity to see that it's not about ripping others apart or creating drama, but also to be able to step in and know that it can work. It can definitely work. And so I think the buzz is that people get a chance to see real life couples, and they begin to see themselves and they begin to project. And there's a lot of conversation going around their projections. So I think it's created a lot of buzz.
I love that. Yes, for sure. So one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, you're all experts in your fields. You've counseled and worked with countless, between the three of you, couples and relationships. So we can just go around. I don't know, maybe Tann, you can start us off. What are some of the tools? If I'm out here, I'm in a relationship. I know a lot of our viewers are in relationships. What is a tool or something that you have learned that would create and foster a strong relationship?
Okay, so you hear everyone talk about communication. Communication is key. Communication this. But I think the thing that's missing in that description and explanation is knowing your communication style. We talk about love languages and whatnot, but knowing your communication style is key. There are passive communicators. There are aggressive communicators. There are assertive communicators. And understanding how your partner communicates is really, really important. Because if you're expecting the response that you would give in partnership, it's going to get ugly fast, and it's going to be challenging, and you're going to feel like you're not being heard, or like you're not being acknowledged, or you're not being respected even. So I'd say communication is key, but deeper than that, knowing your communication style and knowing your partner's communication style.
So where does someone figure that? How do you figure that out? Is there like an online quiz, or is that where you sit down with someone like you and say, help us communicate better? That we have roadblocks here, where there's a wedge between us. Like, where can couples figure that out so that they can move through that?
Well, there are tools online, the good old internet, there's things online that tell you what passive communication looks like, what the characteristics of that is, and what assertive and aggressive communication. So I would start with a good old fashioned Google search. And if you need that additional support, of course, we're all for having you go and talk to a professional and get some help, and maybe even spending time with other couples who are making it work, couples who have been in relationships and they know about good communication. Sometimes that's also helpful. So you have those as three options to get started to find out more about your communication styles.
That's awesome. And Dr. Rhyan, before I go to you to ask, I want to just pop this question up from a viewer. It says, I would say my partner is a passive communicator and I'm aggressive. Hey, where do you recognize that? So what does the formula equal? Like, what do you do when you've got these sort of two different communication styles?
So should I answer that, or you want me to answer that?
Oh, it
guys?
doesn't matter.
Okay, well, I mean, everybody may want to jump in on that one, but I will tell you, when I work with couples where they admit, hey, I'm passive and the other is aggressive, what I tell them to do is look at the assertive communication model. Find that model, look at the 6 or 7 characteristics that identify an assertive communicator, choose one and make it your goal. That one goal may be, because as an aggressive communicator, you tend to interrupt and not let your partner finish.
Yes.
So your goal may become to listen without interruption. So
Yes.
you're just going to choose one characteristic that's going to help you be a more assertive communicator. And as you start to master that, then you're going to move on to the next assertive characteristic. So that's what I'd recommend to that person asking that question.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Reverend Campbell or Dr. Ryan, do you have anything you want to add to that?
And one of the techniques I share with couples is that I invite them to get real. In other words, to have real conversations, begin to just express how you feel. Because most of the times we're playing back the tapes of the past based on how long you've been together. We're playing back the tapes of the past, as opposed to sitting and listening all day to what they're saying. I invite them to go underneath the tongue, because many times it's not about the clothes on the floor or the toothpaste or whatever that is. Many times it's about, very simply, I just need you to hear me out. Sometimes it's about, I just wanted you to hold my hand. Sometimes it's just about, I haven't heard you say you love me in a while. And so it's important that we listen underneath the tongue and hear what they're saying. And many times people cannot express because they're listening to the old tapes and they don't know how to communicate, like Tann was referring to. But to begin to say what's on your mind, man, and begin to come home and say, hey, it's been a rough one. I just need you to listen to me. And it's important. It's extremely important, because the tapes we play back begins to dominate our lives when many times people have moved on. Your partner has moved on from that situation, and they've grown. Many times we've grown because of the lack of non-communication. We don't know that.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. Dr. Ryan, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would have to agree with the both of them, especially the part about the assertive communication. I mean, I just recently on my social media, I have Closet Moments. It's about a 5-minute snippet of something mental health on Friday. And last Friday, the one that just passed, I just spoke about communication styles and finding that assertive communication, that middle ground. It's basically the middle between that passive and aggressive. So making sure that you have a good balance, making sure you're taking care of your needs, but also considering that of others. So whether it's being heard, whether it's wanting someone to follow through with something, getting that balance is crucial in balancing out the polar opposites of the aggressive and the passive communication. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for that. So let me ask then, Dr. Ryan or Reverend Campbell, what would be a tool that you would say? I mean, we've talked a little bit about communication. So do one of you have another tool in that toolkit that, okay, we've got communication. I have some homework that I can dive into now, some things to look up. What's another one that couples should be looking at? Whoever feels the need, the ready. Dr. Ryan.
I think one thing that is very helpful that I've kind of learned through my own relationship journey is tapping into each other, making sure that you're staying in tune. Often when we realize that we're starting to getting into arguments, we're not agreeing with each other, things are not going well, it's because we're losing that sync and that connection. So involving yourself in activities that allow you to become one again. So maybe like those forehead to forehead practice exercises, or back-to-back drawing, where you tell your partner to draw an image that you created on a piece of paper and having them listen to you as you direct them and guide them through figuring out how to draw it, is a way to keep you connected, because we get so disconnected because of the clothes on the floor or the dishes that weren't washed or the toilet seat that was left up, that we lose sight of what our relationships are about. It's about that connection. And so having activities that allow you to connect yourself together can go a long way in addition to communication.
I love that. You know, it's funny. I just texted my boyfriend last week and I said, I think we should have relationship check-ins. I'm like, I know it might sound corny, but I think it's important that we just go like, how are you feeling about this? What is working for you? What is it? What could be better? What are you grateful for? And what do you wish you could be grateful for? Like, let's just be real, because how do you, evolve if you're not willing to have those check-ins, even though they might seem corny or like, why are we doing this? We're fine. We're together forever. I think that is important. So having those activities. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Reverend Campbell, what about you? What tool are you going to give me to put in my toolkit this morning? I'm learning so much.
Well, I also want people to recognize their stuff. And when I say their stuff, I mean, it's not a negative, but remember, you just met your soulmate, or I would like to say your teacher, one of your teachers. And so to recognize that this is not a coincidental relationship, that you are here to begin to teach one another. And so I just recommend that couples begin to, like Dr. Rhyan was saying, begin to tune in, so to speak, and begin to know that many times I'm projecting because I'm in front of a mirror. I'm really in front of a mirror. And so without getting too heady, I'm going to ask people to be directed by the heart. And the heart is many medical studies feel that the heart has brain-like qualities. It has a memory, and it's like the seat of the soul. And so I'm going to ask when I sit with couples, I ask them to be led by the heart. In other words, to get so vulnerable, to get so in tune, to begin to trust that everything is in sync and everything is working together for our good, and to begin to start to trust one another. To begin to trust one another and walk in a different light that it's about being supportive. I ask couples many times to, when you walk together figuratively, I want you to stand at the finish line for one another, to know that to have such trust at that level where you begin to say, I knew you could make it. I knew you could do it. I saw it in you all the time. To begin to communicate with the butterfly and one another, to begin to communicate with the oak tree. We spend a lot of time in the caterpillar and criticizing and judging, where what would it look like if you begin to communicate with your mate as if they had already made it, that they've already accomplished it? What will it look like if you communicate with your children, communicated with the butterfly in them, as opposed to always harping on the caterpillar?
Yeah.
That's so good. Okay, I need to ask this last question. So what if one person in the relationship is a great communicator, or so they think they are? They're always being vulnerable, always saying how they feel. They don't want to hold anything in. They approach it with love. And the other person is just more that passive communicator so what you would say, so what do you think? And the partner's like, I think it's okay. Like, that's the response you get. It's like, well, what's going on in your brain? What are you thinking? And that person just isn't as expressive, is just like more whatever, it's fine. How is that a problem? Is there really stuff going on, or could that person just be fine? Does there have to be like this big exchange of thoughts and emotions, and I guess that's what I'm asking? Or can it just be one person like, yeah, that's good, thank you for sharing?
Well, I'll jump in. I'll offer my 2 cents, and then I'd love to hear from these other two amazing minds on this question. So I would say very clearly, like, sometimes we have watched too many rounds of The Notebook. We've watched too many television shows. Okay, so stop all that. That's what I'm gonna say first. So the thing that I think is really, really important is to remember that balance is the thing that we're striving for. We're not striving for someone to be our clone. Like, I don't need you to respond exactly the way I respond every single time. So there is space for you to be uniquely you and respond in the way that you're comfortable.
Yes.
However, the goal is also compromise, right? So if sometimes I need to just be able to have a 5-minute conversation, it's like, baby, listen, today I don't have the bandwidth to talk to you for 45 minutes about how, the dog is running up the street barking in the middle of the night. I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth. So can we just talk about this? Can we get 5 minutes and stop? Can we set a timer? I encourage my couples to set timers when that's a problem. So there are times for that. Times where your partner's like, no, baby, I really need to talk about that dog keeping me up at night. And you're like, okay, sit down. Let's talk about it. Come on, go. And so there's time for you to do you and for them to be them. And we just have to be aware, and we have to set those guidelines with love, and we have to honor those guidelines.
I love that. I heard someone say one time, like, honey, is this plane ever going to land? And sometimes I'm like, I'm the plane that never lands.
Oh, wow.
And I'm always like, do I talk too much? And he goes, no, it's fine. Like, you don't talk at all. And I talk way too much. So where's the compromise? So any thoughts?
Yes.
And just to follow up on what Tann has said, I advise couples to celebrate your uniqueness. And never compare your marriage, never compare your relationship to anyone else. You are uniquely, here. And to begin to celebrate that, to begin to know that of all the 8 billion of us, you are here uniquely, and never try to paint your partner into something that you think should be, or you're comparing, but just to be comfortable with them as they are, to celebrate their uniqueness. And I think that's crucial, because many times we try to compare. I hear people talk about my parents' relationship. Well, you're not your parents. You're not your friends. You're not any of that. You are uniquely here. And I ask people to just share their thumbprint, their fingerprint, and know that you can begin to create such a unique and vibrant, magnificent relationship that's uniquely yours.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Dr. Rhyan, do you want to finish us up with the final?
Girl, Miss Eva, you read me. You read me when you asked that question. Only because, and I say that because that's exactly how my communication style with my fiance is. He likes to say, how was your day? What's going on? I'm like, it's great. It was fine. And he's like, well, you're not sharing anything. And I was like, because I don't honestly have a feeling or a thought, or I really, it's not that I don't care, but it truly is. That's my personality. For someone who speaks, who listens, who talks, who asks questions all day, every day, to have an additional question asked is like, oh my God, I don't need to ask another question. However, like Tann said, finding that balance. I cannot give my clients everything and not share. I can't keep myself in a share. I have to contribute to it. And so while I am trying to be more engaged in, the small talk conversations, he's also realizing that sometimes he just needs to take a step back, and that he, not ask the question, maybe sitting in silence, maybe being in each other's presence alone is going to be enough of our silent communication. So yeah, it's a life experience.
I love that. Yes. Thank you so much for that permission. I appreciate it. Okay, I am so excited that we are going to have you here next Monday, and then the Monday after that as well. So we get to keep diving into relationships and how to make them stronger. Tann, do you want to let our viewers know where they can find Vow Village and dive into these relationships and maybe find some tips for themselves?
Yes, we're going to really start this forum going and these communications going. We're at Val Village on Facebook. We're at Val Village on Instagram. And the Val Village episodes, all of the episodes can be found on YouTube. So just Google search Vow Village at YouTube, and you'll see all the goodness that we created together.
I love it. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. It was an honor to meet the both of you. Tann, I love seeing you here. Hang on one second while I close the show, and I'll say bye to you after. Thanks everyone so much for being here on Set to Love. We are here weekday mornings. We are at settolove.com. And if you have questions, concerns, you can email us settolovepodcast@gmail.com. I love you guys. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for being here. And you guys have a great week, and I'll see you on Monday.
Alrighty.
See you then.